Custodian, South Carolina, and I would like to reserve my right to yield to Shakira from South Carolina.
That is your right, Delegate.
I strongly oppose this proposal because, first and foremost, there's a reason why pharmaceutical drugs are so costly. Each drug goes through 5 to 6 years of research, and only 1 in 5,000 drugs are approved by the FDA to be marketed to the public. And this leaves the other 4,999 research and paid-for drugs unapproved. And now you do the math and figure out the billions of dollars that we're losing in this. This proposal will moreover reduce innovation due to the loss of profit that the drug companies endure. And this hurts our society as a whole. And I would now like to reserve it.
Thank you, Delegate. You've yielded 1 minute and 4 seconds.
Ashika Desai, South Carolina. I'm in opposition of this proposal because, as the previous delegate said, this hurts our entire society as a whole. Because of the cap, there is a reduction in profit, and these companies will outsource to countries such as China and India, who will provide labor and research at much cheaper rates. This causes a reduction in jobs in the U.S., and at the moment, our economy is not stable enough to be handing out jobs like candy. Overall, this proposal will benefit nobody, as people will no longer have new and improved drugs, there will be a loss in jobs, and this will only cause a greater depth in our already struggling economy. Thank you.
Robin Sachs, Washington Delegation. Regulating how companies can set their prices may seem contrary to America's capitalist spirit, but I urge you all to see that when it comes to healthcare, this issue is insignificant. The United Nations adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948, which stated, among other things, that everyone has the right to medical care. And yes, this includes the poor. This includes the jobless and the homeless and the hopelessly impoverished. By making drug prices high, pharmaceutical companies are denying the poor a human right. When it comes to health, the well-being of the customer must outweigh the greediness of the company. The violation of human rights is not something we should defend on the basis that the free market is more important. And setting prices for medication too high for the poor to afford perpetuates poverty, and on that basis is at best unfair and at the worst classist. I yield the remainder of my time to the chair.
Matt Zink, representing the state of New Jersey. I'd like to reserve my right to yield the remainder of my time to Levoshevsky of New Jersey.
That is your right, Delegate.
Will the author yield to a series of questions?
Author, will you yield?
I will yield to one.
Would you think it's reasonable that a well-balanced pension fund or stock portfolio would include a significant amount of pharmaceutical stock in it?
Rephrase that question, please.
If a well-invested amount of money in a pension fund or stock portfolio would include shares of pharmaceutical companies, would that be a correct assumption?
It's their right to invest in a company.
Okay. The direction I wish to go with this is that pharmaceuticals is an extremely profitable stock to own. They usually pay generous dividends, and they usually have high returns. Anything that reduces the profit of these companies has a severe and negative impact on pension funds, which hurts in the long run. You can't just look at the effect on the corporations, you have to look at the effect on the shareholders. These are our teachers, they're our public servants, it affects everyone. With that being said, I'd like to yield the remainder of my time to Mr. Leshevsky.
Thank you, Delegate. By your actions, you've yielded 50 seconds.
Lev Leshevsky, New Jersey Delegation. I would just like to bring up the two main effects that this proposal will have. First of all, it will reduce the incentive for companies to develop drugs if they realize that the possible profit they can make off these drugs is limited. The second effect is that because the percent profit added onto the market price of any drug is related to the amount of money they put in for research and development, this proposal favors companies to invest less money in research and development. What this means is that companies will put less money into testing their drugs for safety and be less incentivized to put money into developing newer and better drugs. This is not safe for the consumer and only disadvantages those that need these drugs. Thank you.
Matthew Webb, the Republic of Texas. First off, I want to start off by telling you a story. It's a small town in rural Texas, and a young boy is with his grandmother. She cannot get out of the car to go pay for her medication because her arthritis is acting up so bad because she has to go so long without this medication just to save up the money. That boy walks into that store and has to pay over $100 just to get that medication. That young boy was me. Alright? And I feel very strongly about this because I've seen the effects it has on people. Pharmaceutical drugs are very high. If we put a cap on them just to make sure people can afford them, it will not decrease incentive to make better drugs and newer drugs, because they're still going to be able to make profit. He says that they will be allowed to sell them for enough where they can be very nervous, and where they can cover the cost of production plus make a reasonable profit. Sorry, I yield my time to the chair.
Family of Alabama, I rise to make a motion to extend debate by 2 rounds.
There is a motion to extend debate. Would you make it 1 round, please, in the interest of time?
Certainly.
There's a motion to extend debate by 1 round. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? Nay. In the eyes of the chair, this motion does not pass. Delegate, you may speak if you wish.
Thank you. May I also reserve time to Delegate Hanchett from Florida?
Yes, that's your right, Delegate.
Thank you very much. I rise in opposition to this proposal simply because of this. Let's take it in means of economics. If we place a cap on percentages that companies can add to their profit, we're assuming that the only way they make profit is off of selling their drugs. So let's take another example here. If we have investors in these companies, that means they're obviously going to be increasing in profit. However, if they're increasing in profit, we haven't actually accessed number that we set on how much they can sell their drugs for. Basically, what we're going to do is basically say they're not going to even sell their drugs to us anymore, because there's no way there's going to be a possibility for them to make profit off of their drugs that they're going to be selling to us. The idea is simple. If we're going to place a cap on all drug companies in the United States, or any people who sell drugs in the United States, we're basically saying, you know what, we think you make too much money. In the United States, we have the idea of a free market economy where we basically say, you have the right to make money if you can do so. No matter if it is legal, you can do so. I waive my further time at Hanchett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ian Hanchett from Florida. Also, it has been stated that this is an argument about whether or not people's lives are worth more than money. Let me point this out. In Canada, where they do have price controls, you cannot get the latest and greatest drugs because it is not profitable enough. It's not surprisingly, people go into business to make money. If prescription drug companies can't make money selling the latest, greatest drugs, they're not going to do it. They're not a charity, it's a business. And they cannot get the best drugs in Canada. Now, I know how my argument is going to be refuted. It will be stated, well, Canada has a different system than us. I would like to point out that Canada was used in support of this proposal. So if the system is relevant when it makes this proposal look good, it is relevant when it makes it look bad as well. I'd also like to point out that we do have price controls with the Veterans Administration, and they do not have the latest drugs. So I'd like to ask you this. If you are sick, would you rather pay more for the best treatment or get lower quality treatment and have it a little bit cheaper? Yeah, you'll die, but your estate may have a little bit more money. I'd also like to point out that a lot of people have 401k money that they have invested in drug companies because they're so profitable. If we cap drug companies' profits, the people whose money is invested in that will lose their will lose huge chunks.
I'm sorry, Delegate, time has elapsed.